days to get from the house to the wood shop before we get a vehicle. I mean, there's 60-some trees across the driveway.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, welcome back to the Appalachian Podcast, episode number 200. Make way. I'm your host, Billy Riddle, as always. Make way for the King's Guard.
200. How on earth did that happen?
That is a mighty good question. How did my wife let that go that long?
Same way she let you have 3 kids.
I don't, what? No.
She didn't put her foot down.
No, she put her foot down.
Just in the wrong place.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
That was a good one.
Yeah, I think, well, real quick before we even dive into it, of course, we got Chip Slade, as always, being libertarian. Welcome back.
Good to be here.
Yeah, we'll get into our trip to D.C. a little bit on here. I did a little synopsis of a 20-minute solo show I released last week to give people an update, just get something out there. And then, of course, you ain't heard him. You heard him now, man of the hour. The reason we're the #1 podcast in the German Baptist community would be Amos Denton. Chris Montgomery's a big part of that, too, but...
Out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
200 episodes.
Yeah.
From the wood shop to 200 episodes.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's insane.
Trip.
Yes, it has. Lots of twists and turns.
I mean, we've... I think back to some of the, I started it out just in a room at the house and, try to get a new guest every week, somebody local business owner, somebody with a story, and just immediately, started taking off. And you got people, hey, you should get this person on, that person on. And I remember our first really big guest, like, somebody kind of outside the purview of our expectations was
when I came on.
No. Well, yeah, I mean, that one for different reasons, but episode 20, I think it was, we had Levi Lowry come on, and he had written a #1 song, in country music, and was a phenomenal artist, and, and been on some big stages with some big people, and, and you don't necessarily, you don't see the repercussions of guests immediately right off the bat. You know what I mean? It takes a while. Like, even then, as big as a name as he was, it was still only episode 20, so we didn't get a ton of listens. It was at the time, the most listened to, but, it's little things like that too that also kind of build your confidence and make you stress a little harder, make you try a little harder, make you think, well, okay, if I can get this person, maybe I can get this person. You just kind of keep building from there. Honestly, if you look back at our, at our guest list, we've had Grammy winners, we've had CMA nominated artists, Billboard nominated people, Grammy winners, Grammy runners up, legacy people. We've had historic NASCAR teams, NASCAR drivers, Winston Cup
White
champions,
House personnel.
White House personnel. We've had, vice presidential candidates, a couple of those, TV stars, big musicians on the rise, failed musicians like Joshua Grice and the very talented Harwell Grice Band. Yeah, and well, moonshiners and athletes and
Tesla relatives.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild, but our resume looks like we're a lot bigger and better than we really are, I guess is
You're looking for a word, Billy. It would be diverse.
Well, very diverse, but
It's first word in the D.
We check all the boxes, right?
But I just my point is when you look at it on paper, it's like, wow, how in the hell did these slack jaws pull these people? And just
because we're as diverse as the people that have been here.
Yeah. Well, either way,
I mean, you got from a German Baptist to an Englishman to an attorney to a veteran. I mean, I don't really know you can stir that up much more.
It's possible,
Hodgepodge,
but it's definitely it's a good start.
I haven't heard really a great deal about this DC trip.
Yeah,
it was real. It was
Billy and
it was quiet, like radio silence.
Very much so. I thought you both had been arrested or institutionalized, perhaps. But I you were definitely missing in action.
It was actually a very quiet. It was kind of just exhausting because one day we walked to the Capitol and did that whole shebang, and there was a lot of sitting around and waiting because the times were off here and there. And day one, I guess we were trying to record and ended up setting up everything in that room, and then ended up having to break everything right back down and move it away.
We ended up getting a good setup, but yeah, that set things back. And that first night we were there, the international folks really didn't get there until Friday. So really, we were to our own devices Thursday, and we had a time.
Yeah, that's not good.
We had
you consider last year.
So we hit a high point on the first night, I'd say.
Yeah,
it wasn't
like last year.
It wasn't quite last year.
So what you're saying is that Lincoln and Cornwallis not being there, different vibes this year.
There was multiple
Definitely.
reasons. Spike wasn't there as well, unfortunately. So that took away a lot of the flair from the place.
I think Mike Tamart missed us.
Yeah, it's he asked about you. Yeah, he definitely asked about y'all. Yeah, we just, it was a little bit different feel, and we were a little bit more exhausted and running back and forth with the setup and everything, and then that Jeopardy thing we did
dude, that shit was
it got us pushed back quite a bit.
I wanted to come off the couch and smack the shit out of you.
Well, wait. Set it up for people. Tell them what you're talking about.
So Chip and Bill, they call me and like, we're going to do this Liberty Jeopardy thing at LibertyCon. I'm like, all right. So they gave me the link so I could live stream it, and I didn't know how to really live stream shit, so that got complicated for a minute. But thankfully, the wife got me going. And I mean, I'm hurting like hell.
Bet she did.
The ribs.
There's a second one within the space of 15 minutes.
We put the tablet up there, and I think it was like Chip was like, Billy's going first, whatever, but I'm on with the smart one. And they did fuck up, but you still beat that dude by 100 points. Like I had it in my head.
Woohoo!
You really did beat him. Like they did screw him up.
Right.
But you had him by 100 points legitly. So
that's a new word in the English dictionary.
Legitly.
Yeah.
So Billy's up first. And most of the time they do have the springing heifers up first in the stockyard.
Billy.
He started out kind of strong, and I was kind of impressed. And then he pushed his dinger thingy to answer the question,
early, right before he finished the question.
Oh God! Oh yeah, he did that right off the rip.
Oh, you're saying Billy was premature again?
Yeah, for sure.
Fucking 3 within 15 minutes.
So the question
would be a good show.
The question was, the president that said today we are all Republicans and Federalists, and Billy goes, Thomas Jefferson.
Oh no, that's Lincoln.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
It was a question where Jefferson was the answer, and I answered Madison because it was a vice president. And it said the third president of the United States, and for some reason I've got Madison and
well, you should go Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Adams, Jackson,
I hadn't said
Taylor.
He can do it.
No, I hadn't. No.
Oh, it was embarrassing. Thank God, Chip came through like a champ though. But no, he did do pretty good.
Well, if you'll notice.
But he wagered everything.
Who was your competition?
Well, the reason I was wagering everything is because we had a plan to go on stage and lose so we get out of there and go record. But Chip wasn't having any of us. I'll go up there and make myself look like a dickhead by wagering all my money and losing, when honestly I could have probably won and then went and took on Chip in the final round.
I love that was his excuse. He had a plan.
I thought we were going to just, fell out so we could get out of there and make it on down the road. Because I was doing fairly decent, But if you go back and notice, if you go back and watch,
it was awesome.
You will see out of all 3 games, well, there's 4 total, but the first 3 would take the winner to the final round. But out of all 3, there was only 2 contestants up there who had an active drink on the podium with them as they were playing, and that would be myself and Chip. So,
oh, nice, I missed that.
There we go.
Yeah.
This was
it was our party, man.
Chip had to show somebody to the podium, or vice versa. On the final round, like they couldn't even find the right podium. But I'm sitting there on the couch, and like they reading off the question. I guess y'all could see it like printed out on the screen, just like. And I'd answer it, and like after like was into the final round with Chip and them, and Tina was like, dude, she was like, you would have killed it if you'd have been on there. I was like, I'd have probably got stage fright. I'd have been foul. I'd have been saying Madison instead of Jefferson and shit like that. But it was pretty cool. You didn't watch it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, and I was hurt. It was late. Damn, it was late before y'all got. I mean,
it was.
I sat there
delayed.
and watched it live the whole time.
That's why.
Well, they put us
late.
And they put us on after an obituary, and it just kept going.
Jesus
what are we
Christ.
supposed to do?
Obituary hell. I forgot who died by the time they got to the end.
Well, it went on for a while.
That's what that. I mean, it really wasn't. See, I thought you were kind of.
Well, my press agent would have had something to say about that.
That's obituary is like a eulogy.
Eulogy.
Well, yeah, I thought you were just saying that person was up on stage giving their own eulogy, as boring and dead as they sounded.
Oh no, it was real. I mean, he was giving a real eulogy.
I texted him. I was like, dude, I think y'all gave me the wrong link because it's clearly not Jeopardy.
Oh no,
Chip was like back. No, this guy is something about. I don't even know who they're talking about. I can't remember what he replied back. And I was like, man, this dude's getting long-winded. It's like Ezra Rootshall getting the final prayer in at church on Sunday.
And that was for the GB listeners out there.
Yeah.
That's right. That'll propel us to number one.
Oh, yeah.
It was good, though. It was fun.
Yeah, we had a pretty good time. Definitely was something missing without y'all and Spike. And maybe we'll get that fire.
What might be the next function that may not, I'm not saying LibertyCon next year, that would be predictable, but are there any other? I know there was a midterm one this last year.
Mm-hmm.
Where it was, there was one in, was it North or South Carolina?
Well, the Bitcoin conference we were looking at in Nashville.
Nashville, that's the one.
Sorry, and ironic you mentioned that because I got an email from those guys today. We got to figure out if that's something we want to look at, but it's in Vegas this time. So it's a different horse, and it's in May, and yeah.
If we go out to Vegas, one of us probably isn't coming home alive.
That's, that really would be.
I think they made a movie about something.
I was going to say, that would be the show Hangover.
I think they made several movies about it. Hangover 1, Hangover 2. Let me guess, Hangover 3.
I bet Billy gets the face tattoo.
Because we did it.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard pass for me. I enjoy my marriage way too much.
Don't fall asleep with your boots on.
Don't ever do it with your boots on.
So yeah, I mean, so not only is this episode 200, but it's probably going to be our last audio only episode. I'm hoping, from our trip up to DC, we got 3 really good shows in. We're going to release videoed. So then after that, we should have the cameras installed up here and start rock and rolling. And hopefully we're looking for maybe a good, nice Saturday to come up here and see if we can get Dennis up to do lunch. Maybe we'll do Henry and Spike in the morning, or Henry and somebody in the morning, and maybe Matthew and Smokey in the evening, something like that. Just get those first 2 shows out of the way.
And shout out to Sean Dominski for the work he did in putting all the tech together for the podcasts up there.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it looked really, really good.
Now, did you pick up some handy little inside tips and tricks? And
no, I tried to, but I don't know. It was just, a few here and there, I guess, a few here and there, but.
Well, we've got Sean's a good person to bounce information off of, and
yeah,
we got his access
so
anytime.
Yeah.
He did a great job on those video podcasts for us.
Yeah, they looked really, really good. So
this is a very exciting page to launch after the 200th show, that we're going into video and clips and such. Like, to me, that's, you're putting something on the moon.
I think it's problematic because now I got.
It's going to be a nightmare.
Now I got to start putting decent clothes on.
Yeah, I might have to scrub up.
Makeup. We're going to have somebody doing makeup for you.
Oh, Lord. No.
It'll end up like and the people that do watch are going to, there's going to be a segment of them, because I know they're out there, right? And they're going to be going, right, so every time that Simon takes a drink, we've got to take a drink. So it's going to be like Dallas.
They don't know you have a bottomless cup, though, do
Think about the first time they put a face on The Voice. The first time they see what the Englishman looks like.
That's right.
Oh, dear. It would be very disappointing. But there's going to be a number of drinking games could evolve from that launch, and that would make me joyous that we can start our own sort of Dallas podcast drinking game.
Yeah, something or other. Hopefully, and I guess ultimately the goal is to start off with, just go through maybe do a spring and summer or something to that nature.
2.
With the cameras, kind of get our feet wet, kind of figure it out. And, maybe, sometime around early fall,
3.
we transition towards doing it live, and that way it's going out to YouTube or Rumble or wherever it's going out to live X right there on the spot, which if you're doing YouTube live, then that gives people the opportunity to give you super chats and stuff. So hopefully at that point in time, we have somebody, not me sitting in front of a computer, and they're changing the cameras and they're reading through the chats and people in the super chats for listening and watching. I think you $5 here, $10 there. It's like, give them a shout out or answer questions or something. So that's another way to monetize. Maybe they'll pay you $20 for Amos to look into the camera and say, this is the #1 podcast.
You know it.
You know what I mean?
I ain't never said it.
I'm saying it's $20.
You're gonna be wearing one of them wide brim.
$20.
Exactly.
You're
that's
gonna
what
be
I'm
wearing
saying.
one of them wide brim hats doing it too.
No, I hadn't said that they hadn't asked me how they could listen to it.
Irrelevant, my lord.
Carry on as you were. Wasn't that?
So before we dive into everything, do you want to say something, Chip?
The only last thing about the D.C. trip, I want to give a shout out to Nancy Mace, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, and her office up there. Her press secretary, Jacob Downs, has reached out through Instagram. We got together up there, and he gave us a personal tour of the Capitol to Billy and I, which was really, really cool. And we got to go behind the scenes where all the big groups didn't get to go, but we got to go and Jacob was just brilliant. He knew all the stuff.
Was that your January the 6th get out of jail free? I'm just wondering.
No, we actually took some photographs with the ropes.
Yeah,
the actual ropes.
She seems like a real common person, Nancy.
Oh yeah, yeah. She's
like down to earth.
She's great.
She walked by us. I guess I was completely oblivious. Kind of like how it was the Tim Pool at the completely oblivious.
I was
she was like,
Nancy.
Didn't you know that was her walk by? I was like, no, because I would have assumed if that was her, our tour guide here would have said, hey, these are two people with me, whatever, shake their hands or something. No, I thought it was just somebody he was talking to in the hallway. I guess.
Well, no, he was just telling his boss what he was doing. He's like, I'm on a tour with these two.
Oh.
I wish we could have been there.
Now, for me, okay, the coolest parts was walking into the old Senate chambers and the old Supreme Court chambers, because you could feel the history. You could, because I don't think they use those anymore.
And you can smell it too.
Yeah,
right? It's like an old library.
Yeah, you're just sitting there. If you sit there long enough, you take yourself back to like the 1800s or whatever, and you're sitting there and it's candlelit room and people in there, they're speaking properly, they're talking, they're arguing.
There's etiquette.
They had gas lamps in 1800s.
Well, and also Netanyahu happened to be up there, and the Congress was actually meeting. They were all on the floor. We got to go up there and watch them. We got to see AOC and Ilhan Omar and Lauren Boebert and Morgan Griffith. I saw Morgan and Nancy Mace actually talking down there. So we got to see them all.
Wow.
Yeah, we actually went into the I guess the house floor or whatever, and sat up in the balcony and kind of looked. They wouldn't allow us to take our cell phones in there, so we couldn't get any pictures. But if you want a good visual, just if you're ever driving down the road and you see an animal that's been hit and dead for a couple of days, and you go look at it and see the maggots just moving their way across everything, that's kind of like what you're seeing up there from the balcony. A bunch of maggots just
maggots. Thank you. I've got that as a visual, Billy. Right? Thank you
that's
so much.
basically what you're seeing in that. I mean, it's a zoo. It's a circus.
Except for Nancy Mace. She looked great.
Well, obviously, there's a handful of them in there that are pretty cool. I will give them that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that's just. But that was. It was really neat. It was cool to get in there and see that history. And
well, the history side of it, actually, I mean, that to me is that's what DC's about.
That's what everything's about.
But to walk into the old chamber and get all your senses they're just super alert. But to me, that when you smell these old rooms, these old libraries,
makes you think back,
right? Well, to me, if you've got to apply some perspective to it, I'd swing around and say what you're smelling there is wisdom.
What the rock is cooking.
That's what I was thinking.
You're smelling wisdom. And what you think about when you open up an old book, or you go into the old library and you get that scent. And there's only one scent like it. And to me, that's wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to express it as a scent is, to me, that's
really
fascinating.
Mad I wasn't up there.
Yeah, I'm kind of pissed off I wasn't there for that.
No, it was cool. It was cool. It was neat.
Oh, that would have been I would have loved that.
Billy's going to come
It
up with a
sounds like
one-liner,
some
man.
hogwash you would tell your mom or something about going to the pub. Well, it's been around for 200 years, and it's history. When I go in there, I can smell it. There's wisdom in this pub.
No, my line with my mother, and she accused me of spending way too much time and money in pubs. Now, she had a point. But my counter to all of that, bearing in mind I had access to some of the fantastic pubs in London, had the blue plaques on. And the blue plaque, for those that don't know, they'll have the writing on it that describes the significance of the location, but they're historical sort of markers. And a lot of these pubs that I would frequent happen to have been frequented by Shakespeare, you know, and Dickens, the whole gamut. So that was my counter to my mother was if it was good enough for Dickens and Shakespeare,
you were getting your culture, man.
I believe I was getting my culture from English pubs, and I've done okay by it.
Well, I feel like that you go into, whether it's an old pub or the Chambers or the old bars on the wharf in New York, you know, you should feel like there's a reflection. Like, you should feel what's passed before you.
Yes. Now, I went into the Temple Church for a particular wedding.
Oh, what?
The Temple Church in London. It's a very, very historic.
Catholic?
It's a legal centre for Lincoln's Inn and so forth. And it's you've got the effigies of the Knights Templar on the floor where they were buried and so forth. And it was this legal chamber. So anyway, we may have had a couple of drinks at this particular wedding, and we got into the legal chambers of the temple, and we managed to steal some gowns.
Did you desecrate Lancelot's grave? What did you do?
Well, there is photographic evidence out there, and the photographic evidence, if it ever comes out, I'm so done. I'm done.
King Arthur's
I'm wearing the robe, taking a pee in the temple urinal.
That is desecration.
Wearing nothing more than the robe. This very historic place.
Tell me
I'm glad I heard that story.
Tell me that was rugby related.
Look,
actually, it was
the
wedding related.
The story isn't even the story. The story is, how in the hell do you get invited to a wedding in a historic? That'd be like me getting invited to a wedding like up there at the church across from the White House. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't happen. You know, sea captain rugby players just don't get invited to weddings at these historic places.
Well, yeah, you do.
No. I mean, if that's your cover, I guess you get invited to those weddings.
Well, if you're good, I mean, of course you do.
People in high places.
I mean, it was Top Hat and Tails. There was the Lincoln's Inn choir was singing in the church. It was the most non-aristocratic event I've ever been to.
Down this rabbit hole?
No idea.
I don't know.
Who cares?
Well, speaking of history, before we jump off to it, we did get invited. I wish I could go back in my email and look at the guy, but sometime up in April or something up in the Shenandoah Valley, there's something going up there and basically firing Civil War style weapons, cannons and rifles and stuff like that. And they've invited us to come up there and join in and do something like that. So that's something I probably need to think about.
Can I read the gauge for good trip?
I need to, yeah, sure. Well, if you don't show up like Lincoln, we're not even going. So, but
I know what that means. By default.
Yeah, so I guess, the Capitol was a lot of fun, and shout out to Nancy and her crew and for all they did for us. Cool. That was telling you, if you have the opportunity to do it, just hit up your congressman and tell them you're coming up there, and you'd like to get. A lot of times they'll just oblige you, even if you're a Joe Blow like us. And it's much better than the guided tour, and you get much more of an insight. You get to go places that most of those people don't get to go. So,
and we were on the House side, and that's all we did this time. But the Senate side's a little different. I worked up there several years ago, but they have a tram underneath that takes you from building to building up at the Senate, and we didn't get to see that.
Yeah, the congressman had to walk from
cafeterias and all
sorts
of stuff.
Like many cities.
Yep. When you see on the news, like the journalists chasing the dudes down the hallway, like that's underground, right?
Yep.
Like it's like the hallways.
And they had their own damn bank. They had a bank. They had
big ass cafeteria with tons of food and stuff.
All kind, like a food court.
Yeah,
ABC store.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet
It's a
there
little
is.
city. It's a little city, and it's, our tax dollars funding a little city.
Yeah.
So there's something about that city, though. It still
Was it $600 million on sushi for the Pentagon? Oh, oops.
Can
Oh,
we
sorry.
believe these numbers?
You know what? I've got no reason not to.
Me neither.
I mean, they're making
Dude,
it
I
public.
honestly do.
They're making it public so everybody can check them. So yeah, I would expect they're correct.
Shit is
wouldn't
blown.
they be?
It's every day my mind is blown.
Oh, we're going to come on to that. We're going to come on to that.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, we can't keep up with it. That's how fast the news cycle is hitting us right now. So God knows
playing.
what the legacy media are
playing.
doing because they're imploding right now.
Oh, they're
and
spinning.
I love it.
You got Fang's ex-boyfriend losing his mind.
I love it.
yeah, we're gonna jump on that. Because we got so much to talk about. Just reminiscing about Stu Wonder. We'll get towards that at the end as well. But I wanted to thank everybody that has been a part of it to get to this point in time. Thank y'all for kind of rearranging y'all's lives to be here. It's come a long way. Just from a little
Pray for our wives.
Indeed.
Oh, absolutely. If it wasn't for my wife, my mother-in-law, if it weren't for them and my mom helping out with the kids and stuff, I'd never be able to pull this off. But like I said,
And her hometown's underwater right
it
now.
is. We're gonna get to that as well. But yeah, we started out just as a hobby in an upstairs office space. Who's turned to this? We're in a mountain studio with a, TV mounted. If for some reason it's not turned on to check our stuff.
It could be.
But we're
At the
getting
touch of
cameras
a
here
button.
soon. We're gonna be doing some cool stuff. So I appreciate y'all. Appreciate everybody out there that does subscribe at patreon.com/getontap. For that $3 a month, just only a dime a day. For all y'all out there who's been with us for the longest time, Brad Kennett at Longwork Solutions, Caleb, Blake Holcomb Metalworks, or Carter Chitwood, all the people have been
Catherine Spence.
Yep, been
all sorts
supporters
out there.
for a long time, and we appreciate
Nick
y'all.
and Mayor Ferrari.
Yep. Nick subscribes on both X and Patreon,
Yep,
so
yep.
I'm going to be working with him hopefully soon. We'll talk about with the flooding and stuff that's been happening, but thank
And even
everybody.
makes phone calls to let us know when we did an extra good job of not getting dumb.
Yeah,
And I guess
Yeah.
Caleb made it back out west safely.
yeah, he did. I need to give him a shout, but
I talked
shout
to
out
him
to him.
today.
Nat Hodge has been a big supporter from the show from the rip. People like Tyler Gotze, being a big help. But we've had a lot of fun with it, and then I pray that we get to 400. The way we're all living it, still riding by the seat of our pants. Who knows? We'll see how that works out. But I kind of want to do the show a couple of weeks ago, kind of on like an emergency. Kind of like an emergency show. I was driving up and down the road. I was like, all right, I'm going to try and make it home in time quick. Let's get down there because there's a lot of devastation lately.
Oh, it's been nonstop.
You have Helene in Western North Carolina, and we've talked about that ad nauseum on this show. We've done multiple shows about it. They're finally actually starting to get a lot of the help that they need and a lot of the help that's been held back from them. They seem to be in really good spirits now. I think things are going well. What we're currently seeing right now with the flooding in Southwest Virginia and East Tennessee, Eastern Kentucky, and Southern West Virginia. I mean, it's catastrophic. They're saying it's the worst since 1977. We'll get into that and stuff. But, between Helene and then, you start getting snowstorms and then ice storms and then back and forth. And then all of a sudden, forest fires. And the reason I wanted to do this show the way I wanted to do it is because Amos called me a couple of weeks ago, and I hope he can kind of bring that fire he had on that conversation. But we had fires that were really impacting this area. Like when I say this area, I'm talking about a lot of friends of the show.
They were on the doorstep.
Yeah, I mean, Amos, you and Simon both were probably within the evacuation zone because it was a 5-mile radius. And
Thankfully,
as
wasn't.
the crow flies, you all are within 5 miles.
Well,
of that.
I was overlooking
I
it.
sure was.
Yeah, I was overlooking it.
I called Simon. I'm like, man, you see smoke. Fire, heard fire off Middle Ridge. And I think Simon might have been napping. Maybe not. But you go out and you're like, oh, maybe, I see smoke, maybe not, whatever. And I mean, the wind was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't just blowing one direction. I mean, it was literally just whirling. And I don't know what was less than 30 minutes later.
No,
it
was I literally got binoculars out and scoured my skyline because I'm from an elevated position. And
Operation
went,
Big Ear area.
It was, the big ear area, if you know, you know. But yeah, that was,
20 minutes maybe.
If that. And I was just like, man, I got it. Yeah.
He was like, I think it's 2.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm getting ready to go down there. So the podcast T-shirt of me raking hay on the back of the T-shirt, I drove up into them fields, and that's literally right on the fire line. And I mean, every firefighter around here, they're not forest fire guys. They're not smoke jumpers. They ain't even getting paid.
No.
I mean,
Volunteers.
Half of Callaway's works for VDOT. They're patching potholes.
Yep.
At 8 o'clock in the morning.
Or farmers.
And farmers.
Think of the Fizzels.
Yeah, Spike. They get a phone call midday. You know what you call it, Simon?
Midday, quite right.
And I guess the wind blew a tree across the power line right there at Wade's Gap, Monte Vista.
Yep.
And the power line caught the leaves and stuff on fire at the edges. I mean, right behind Mr. Chapman's house. And it took off up, the wind blowing it up Webster, up the side of the mountain. And
inaccessible.
It was Chris Craighead that was the master brewer for Chaos Brewery.
Yep.
He lives up in there, and he went up to Mr. Stover's. Mr. Stover's 96 years old, can't read or write. He's lived that same place, took care of his mom and daddy till they're gone. We may or may not picked him up and took him on a hayride without even him knowing where he was going last fall.
It happens.
But, so, they call in, hey, there's a fire. Callaway, volunteers, I mean, they're leaving, patching potholes to go jump on fire trucks. And it was that, I mean, I'm going to tell you, I've never, ever thought I would ever see anything like that night.
Scary.
And, and I mean, that whole night I thought about all the stuff I'd seen that was happening in California. That fire was moving faster than we could have run. I mean, I like climbing up through the mountain. And
it was gusting 45 knots.
It turned around
moving.
And then jumped over Wade's Gap and went both ways because the wind coming down that hollow. So now, you got a fire burning up one ridge this way, one ridge this way.
With different wind vortices affecting both directions.
As they come down every little saddle and crook in the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you what, I've even called the boys I'm going to tell you, that's the difference in people that are not union getting paid. And I have nothing against a union paid firefighter. Nothing at all. I mean, let's just put that out there. That's not a problem. But, the local fire department, if they don't know the terrain, they know somebody that does.
Right. So now we're getting into local farmers.
They're making phone calls to people. Hey, this road. These fields. Where can we get to? Hey, where's a pond at? Where can we dam up? I mean, they had every fire department in all of Franklin County, out of Roanoke in here, and one house burnt down.
That was an amazing effort.
You ride up them roads, old man Stover's 3 feet from his house, it's burnt, but they saved it. I mean, literally, they were staging at every house, and the only reason they lost to one house is the fire truck got hung up in the driveway, which everybody should think about.
Yeah, clearing your driveway for access.
When crap goes bad, can a fire truck get to your house?
Yeah.
And that's on the driveway back in here. But that could have been unbelievably bad.
In a populated area?
When you called me, because I was driving up and down the road, and I answered the phone, and I was driving through Charleston, West Virginia, and because I will never forget this conversation. I headed up the turnpike, and Amos said, Billy, he said, you want to talk about America, you want to talk about communities coming together. Let me tell you what happened up here on this mountain today. And you kind of went into it.
I mean, you had farmers showing up, coming down the road
with their
their manure spreaders, because they, every farmer that had heard about it, we all knew you can't get fire trucks up into them mountains. We can get these manure spreaders and these tractors. Load me up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's only
taking off up the mountain roads into the hayfield and
the timber guys and their equipment is the only shit that's
loggers
get up
showing
there.
up with dozers.
Yep,
throwing the ramps off the trailers, unloading equipment. That's America. That's the American spirit. That ain't who you vote for, one party or the other.
That's community.
The American spirit is
that's community,
taking care of each other. I mean, the old brewery opened up for a command center, and you had people coming in there bringing food and water, and
The church is opened up.
Monte Vista Church.
Monte Vista.
The next morning, there was old white-haired ladies out of Callaway showing up with breakfast casseroles at 5 o'clock in the morning for them boys.
Yep.
And a lot of them local firefighters, volunteers.
Oh, they
were on that.
They're all
mountain.
volunteers.
They left for work at 7 o'clock that morning to go work at VDOT or go to the farm. And
we're up for
36 hours later, they were
36
they'd
hours.
gotten steep enough that they couldn't get machinery up there. They were walking with shovels.
So donations to your local fire department would be
absolutely.
That's where it starts.
No,
and that's where it's always started.
Respect your local fire department like you do your pastor.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you're going to need both of them one day. Maybe not, but hopefully not. But if you do, I mean, them boys, unbelievable job. You ride up through all of that. I mean, every one of y'all should.
And it's been lost in the last 2 weeks of news cycle, which is a crying shame. So we should be really pushing what these guys did locally, because they saved devastation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it can be underappreciated.
No,
like I said,
not at all.
Well, the enthusiasm he had when he called me, and like
well,
I
it was
said,
just,
the loggers,
how I felt. I mean, just what I see.
The loggers, the farmers, the just anybody and everybody that could lend a hand was up there making sure lines were cut so houses could be saved.
Well, think about your damming streams so that you've got a head of water that you can then suck up and fill into a muck spreader that's then taken by a local farmer up a timber trail, because nothing else can make it up there. And they're doing cycles. I could see them going up and down, making their turnaround, dumping all the water, gravity working for them.
Oh, we're on the phone with each other.
Exactly what they were doing.
Me and Simon, he's like, man, I see the lights, because then the loggers got their equipment up there, and they're just cutting breaks up. All you can see is LEDs running across the ridge top.
Yep.
And I'm gonna tell you, you can have whatever, a government agency, FEMA, whatever bullshit anybody wants. Them boys, them tractors.
It's all their own equipment.
They make $200 an hour, custom hauling manure. Do you think any of them ever said, hey, how much am I getting paid to do this? They showed up, said, look, we know your trucks can't get there. Load me.
We're going to do it.
They were showing up loaded. Most of them were showing up already full of water. Hell no. Do you think they got paid a dime? Hell no. I mean, there was guys up, them boys on them dozers up there. You can be a dozer operator and cut a pad out on a flat. You either got to be a logger or a farmer to put your ass on a D6 on the side of a mountain.
And
That's borderline insanity.
And be prepared to change your underwear.
Wildfires coming at you.
Yeah.
And guys showing up with gooseneck trail. I mean, some of them farms up there, they're the rest of this year's hazing in barns. Fire gets there, you can't replace that.
There was livestock being moved.
They were boys showing up, tractor trailers. They were loading hay out of barns, taking it down the mountain. Y'all know the roads. Make sure you don't get locked up.
You were doing it.
Ash was falling hard enough. Like, it was like driving in a blizzard. That's how much it really unbelievably baffled me how fast that things can go from good to bad. But what I was impressed by is the people want to sit around and say, nobody told me to do this, or I'm not allowed to do this. That's where things get real bad. When everybody realizes, look, we got to stop it and stop it now. It don't matter, because by regulations, you think a farmer could have been using a shit tanker to spread water? Hell no. You think a logger could be cutting through private land? Hell no.
Yeah, but taking it from a private pond.
You stop it at 500 acres versus 3,000 acres.
Damming up the creeks.
Dam the creeks up, pump the water out.
Do what you got to do.
That's America. That's the American spirit. Everybody help everybody. And it was, the next morning when I come down off my adrenaline rush, I was very emotional. Just thinking back on how selfless in the moment every person around was. And that's community. That's not everywhere in America. I mean, you look on the news and there's an apartment on fire and people screaming and hollering in the next one.
That's a rural community.
Yes. And not every rural community. But
there's something else different about Callaway, because
damn right.
The people, That was all word of mouth too. It wasn't like all these people were checking their Twitters and Facebooks and being like, "Oh, there's a fire on the mountain." No, this was word of mouth. I mean, I know when Amos had called, the next day he said something to where I think you had 65 calls or something in 12
like
hours.
69 calls in 12 hours from
Because I mean, people
in a roundabout coordination way.
Because people were calling you saying, "How do I get up here in this holler? How do I get up in that holler?"
And there was times I didn't know. I called Garland. Garland,
He knew.
Yeah,
He
Garland.
knew.
You know, if you go up to the old cow pasture off the corner, where isn't there a cut through? Yeah, might be growed up a little. Tell me where it's at. And
it's the old logging trails that got them out of the shit. It's not the new logging trails; it was the old one.
the pipeline, I'm gonna tell you.
And the pipeline.
I
Get
gotta
ready
put
to
this
eat
in
some
here.
crow. Do it.
A good friend of mine hated that pipeline with everything in his passion. It didn't go through his land. It went right on the upper side of all his land. He's got a beautiful place, nice pond, dude. He fought them tooth and nail, went after them. They ended up paying him sums of money for silting the pond and all. To up to 4 weeks ago, it was a straight out lose my mind cussing. But that pipeline going through them mountains, all them farm,
It's a
them
fire
big
line.
tractors and manure tankers, they was running down that pipeline spraying water off both sides. So instead of it being a 50-foot clearing, they're soaking everything down, making it 600 foot.
That pipeline saved the mountain.
Yes, it did.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend, like, I'd went to his house, moving vehicles, getting paper, stuff, hey, if it gets here. And after they got stopped at the pipeline the next morning, I was like, where's it?
And it was like, what?
I was like, what about that pipeline? He was like, let's finish getting grass on it, and we're just going to put that in the background. That's just in the past now. But
now I could see all of this from an elevated position
because you see it on both sides of Wade's Gap.
Both sides of Wade's Gap, and I could see the fire line. I could see the pipeline. I knew exactly the line that they were taking to stop that fire,
and you could see the dozers.
Absolutely, and I hope a few folks change their opinion a little bit on the pipeline. And that will be a good thing.
It's not the pipeline as much as it should change everybody's opinion on having access roads and stuff through the mountain. It changes mine. I mean, on my mountain.
Well, that's a California deal. The reason California went up, like a tinderbox, is because they don't have forestry management.
Right.
So you have to work hand in hand, and if you're not going to get rid of tinder, this is what you're going to expect.
Now, after this ice storm that we just had,
oh dear God!
Think if that fire would have been a year from now.
Oh, with all the pines on the ground, because it was all the Virginia pines.
One more thing about the fire,
off.
and then we can move on.
Well,
so at least y'all two both know Hippie Wilson.
Oh yes, indeed, very well.
He wouldn't leave the mountain.
No,
he lives up on top of the mountain, and his cousin called me. It's like, Amos, can you call Wilson? He won't leave. He was like, I called him, and he said, I sent the wife and the kids down off the mountain. I ain't going nowhere. He said, can you call and talk some sense into him? And
you should have said there were 10 copperheads around his place, and they're all going to bite him, because I know one of them got him a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but it didn't even hurt him because his feet are so tough it couldn't even bite through. That's honest to God true story.
That's
a copperhead bit him on the heel and his skin because he goes barefooted all the time. I mean, he picks up hay on hay stubble barefooted, man. Oh man, tougher and shit.
Clearly.
He said, I asked the doctor with the copperhead, if I don't get that shot, how bad is it going to be? He said, you're going to be real sick. He's like, all right. He said, I went home and I just chugged moonshine for 3 days, so I didn't know I was sick from the snake bites.
That's something else.
So I called him. I was like, Wilson, man. I was like, you up on the mountain? Yeah. Come down that mountain. I was like, man, you can rebuild that house. I ain't going to have to rebuild a house. I ain't going nowhere. And I was like, what if a fire gets up there? He was like, ain't getting here. I was like, man, dude, use some sense. They said they went up there. He was on a bulldozer shoveling shit off the side of the mountain barefoot.
That That is exactly.
That's my hero, man.
That's a sight.
That is him. That is Wilson.
But-
bless him.
Yeah, I ain't going nowhere.
Yep.
This is where I was born. This is where I was raised. It's where I've lived my whole life. It goes, I go.
Well,
Wilson, love him.
or Callaway. What we probably should do here sometime this spring or summer is go down to the Callaway Firehouse and do like a big show, a big event, get a couple famous people to come up here, do a luncheon, donations, get these boys some money and stuff, because, like you said, we need to do throw in Rocky Mountain as well, whatever we got to do to make it, because Rocky Mountain does come a lot of these
Well,
fires in
Rocky
rural
Mountain gets
areas.
money. I mean, they're paid, right?
To some degree. I think all firefighters in the county
to
are
a
paid
degree,
to some
but there's,
degree.
I mean, the majority are.
Yeah, they're paid like $10 a call.
Something like that,
they're
yeah.
volunteer departments,
Yeah.
and every volunteer department that is in Franklin County, we all need to support as a community. This isn't hard.
After that night, I was thinking about this, and I think that in rural America, every single volunteer, like we as the community, all of us men should go to classes to be able to help them in that kind of an event.
Now, there was a volunteerism.
I don't have no
mandate.
desire to go to a car. That ain't me. But in that kind of event, if you had some kind of knowledge to keep help the average person be able to help them. Because that's all hands on deck in that situation. Now, luckily,
those skill sets unfortunately require OSHA training, blah blah blah,
yeah,
blah blah blah, and bullshit.
Bullshit.
If you can operate heavy machinery, farm machinery, that's when you're gonna you're gonna deliver the best bang for your buck.
If you got experience in farm machinery, that's OSHA shit. That's why that don't work.
Fuck OSHA.
You know how I got my OSHA card?
Uh-oh. No, don't do it live.
Well, who knows what's going to happen to OSHA? It might not exist next week.
Shouldn't.
It might not.
It's government. OSHA's
Well,
a private deal. It's like a sub deal of the government.
So they
sublet
their
that's how
liability
they all
through
operate. It was we're not taking the advice from the CDC, even though it's a guideline, it's not a law, but we'll follow CDC guidelines. Next thing you know, the CDC guideline, for all intents and purposes, has been made into a law because the guideline has been interpreted by the state as legally binding. Well, that's horseshit. I don't care which way you cut it. There's only one body of people on this continent that can enforce and write laws, and the CDC is not one of them.
But that whole point goes back to the fires, California versus here.
Yeah.
Out there, we can't do this, we can't do that, we're not allowed to do this, we're not allowed to do that. These firefighters, this guy is not allowed to do this. Appalachia, cut that barbed wire.
That's indeed. Run it over.
Mhm.
You got a track vehicle, make a hole. But
Yeah.
you're damn straight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I know the guy. He'll be all right with it. Just do it. You know what I mean? And
Uh-huh.
I guess that's why
We'll make it better afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
We'll fix it.
that's
Yeah.
the difference.
That's the
Regulation versus we got
Common
we
sense.
Got, we got our homes to save.
Yep. And look at the homes. Look at the homes that were saved, right? Rather than all the habitation or the side of the mountain or whatever, they focused very correctly. Their strategy was on point. They knew the homes they had to save. They knew what was in the line, and they reacted accordingly. Absolutely brilliant,
Jonathan Custer.
Jonathan Custer. Oh yeah.
I guess that's a big reason why
Man's a legend.
Callaway, Virginia is the home of the Appalachian podcast. I mean, that's our official home now. I mean,
Yep.
was Rocky Mountain.
That's why we're
Franklin
here.
County, but
That's why we're here.
it is now Callaway. And that's why we encourage so many people to come up here and get on the show. Once they get on the show and see these people and just hang out on the mountain, I mean, it'll blow just the most random people that'll show up, like Garland or, some of these farmers and stuff. I mean, these out-of-towners, when they come and actually we finally get them up here, it needs to be said. It needs to be talked about. That's why I'm really glad we held out for the 200th to do this and to talk about their story, because it can't be screamed enough just how this community came together so quickly and was able to turn something that went from bad to worse. And instead of getting from worse to really, really bad, they took it back. They saved people, they saved homes, they saved houses, and they didn't need
by breaking the law.
They didn't need
breaking the law.
Well, and they didn't need a 6-figure, government manager up there telling them what to do, because all that guy was going to do was, well, I need to call this guy and this guy.
Yep.
They went straight to the people who they knew the terrain, who knew the land.
Well, even to some of the guys on the fire department went and picked up their personal equipment that had, I know at least one of them that has
crash
dozers and
what
stuff.
have you. Yep.
Went and picked up his personal equipment. You ain't got to do that.
No, you're not getting that.
You're not obligated to do that if you're a firefighter.
You're not getting that in Pasadena. In Pasadena, you are solely relying on the firefighters, you're not relying on the firefighters and their second jobs and the farmers around you, because all it is cookie cutter neighborhoods out there, and water wasn't even there. They didn't even have water, so you're at the mercy of the government essentially out there.
Oh, they had water. It was just diverted at the time.
Well, speaking of which, it's once again we're Appalachia region, and this time the heart of Appalachia has been devastated by flooding again. They're talking about possibly the worst flooding since 1977. Southwest Virginia, southern West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, East Tennessee, and bits of western North Carolina, but not quite as bad. Basically, coal country has been just absolutely destroyed. Hurley, Virginia, which just a couple of years ago had massive floods tear through there. There's still vehicles in the river from that event. Mm-hmm. That was in 2022. Grundy's constantly flooding, and they're talking about this is one of the worst in years.
And they just moved Grundy up.
Yeah. The Walmart survived, I do believe. Yeah, about 25 years ago. Of course, that Walmart was built by immortal men. It's not going anywhere.
This is like multi-level. It would take a,
McDowell County, West Virginia, Pikeville, Kentucky, all underwater. It's bad.
And now we've got a snowstorm.
The snowstorm is now coming.
Luckily, it's kind of going north.
Hopefully,
I think.
So you're wishing someone else's bad luck when they say, "Oh well, let's hope it goes north."
Well, that's where all the cities are.
But
and
good luck with that.
Richlands, Virginia is completely underwater. That's my wife Tara. It's her hometown. She went to high school at Richlands. Of course, her parents, they live up in Claypool Hill, which is, it's kind of like the Franklin Heights to Rocky Mountain, just a little bit further away. So, they're okay and good, but Richlands completely underwater. Talked to our good friend Matthew Rife Technology, big supporter of the show today, because he's based out of Richlands. It didn't get up to his home or his business or anything like that, so he's still in good shape. He was actually coming down the road today from New York, I guess. He went up there for whatever reason, and I tried to talk him into come up here and hanging out for the show, but he had his fiance with him. I did, and do such a great dude. If you're not following him, go follow him on X at Rife Technology. He's an Appalachian, has a phenomenal technology with his product. Simon, we've talked about.
He's got great credentials, and the Rife machine. Anyone knows about Rife Technology, sound wave, frequency. This is the guy that you need to be following.
He's also really active on X.
He's
really accessible.
Yes. And if you buy it, call him up. He will literally answer the phone and explain to you how to use it. But our good friend Isaiah Rickman, Rickman Inc., hopefully he's going to be coming up here and getting on the show at some point in time, because Isaiah's a fascinating guy. And he's got some great stories. And he's been super busy lately though, but he'd call me up, said a buddy of his, kind of an old timer up in Bath County. He's like the guy that goes around and chops wood for everybody and makes sure the entire community's got wood and stuff. And I guess he said he come down with lung cancer and it's kind of spread to his brain or whatever. And,
oh no!
And he's got to go back and forth to Charlottesville, and that's 4 hours away. And Isaiah hit me up and asked me. He shows that people listen to the show. He said, "Hey, that Rife machine you talk about on the show." He said, "What can I do to try and get one of them? I want to get one for this guy." And so I said, well, I'll hit up Matthew, whatever, and called him up. And we back and forth today about Richlands, what was going on with the flood. And he called me on the phone, me and him talked for a few minutes. And I'd ask him, what is that? Yeah. He meant to send that to me. Yeah, he meant to send that.
I'd be sick.
SUV got crushed.
I'd be sick.
Diesel.
But either way, so I was talking to Matthew about it. I was like, hey, did you get my text a couple weeks ago? I've been trying to get a machine for one of my buddies. Oh, I got 2 on me or whatever. Kind of told him the story of everything that was going on. He said, all right, tell your buddy to hit up Sarah. Tell him Matthew said 50% off. So, I mean, that's the kind of guy this dude. I mean, he is a phenomenal individual. And Simon can,
I cannot.
he can attest to you the
I
machine.
cannot speak more highly of him.
Yeah, I mean, his technology works. If you want to help your body out, it's not just eliminating cancer.
I use it daily.
It's eliminating the frequencies help with all kinds of different ailments, But yeah, give him a follow, give him a look. He's been phenomenal, big help to this show. Hopefully, I said earlier he's going to be on our first video show in a month or so that we do. Hope we can get him up there because he's such a good dude, and for that, I mean, it's and hopefully we'll do a GoFundMe or Give Send Go to help this gentleman out because it's one of Isaiah's buddies. Isaiah's done a lot for us.
Oh, he's such a kind-hearted guy.
Yeah,
you couldn't ask for a better mate.
and if you've ever been up to one of our legendary 4th of July parties and understood why the fireworks are so good, you'll know that he's got a big part of that. The dude he's
the man behind
phenomenally talented. And he does what? Rick Manink, he's doing a lot of plumbing and stuff that. Yeah. So make sure you're going and checking them out because Isaiah does phenomenal work. Yeah. Isaiah put us in touch with Chris Hodges as well. So, I mean, we owe him quite a bit. He's been real good to us as well.
Isaiah's been a gentleman.
Dude, I'm going to tell you, that's solid. I mean, me and him have been friends since we were little boys. I mean, grew up elementary all the way through. And owns a plum. I'm going to tell you, he goes, I mean, I know this for a fact, more than once. Gets called to a job, can clearly see that person don't have the means to do what needs to be done. It gets done anyway. They might not get a bill, but it gets done.
Case in point. Yep. Case in point.
The man is as solid goes.
Yeah, and he's living the American dream where he's just pumping out kids like he joined the church, I guess. I don't know, but and good for him. Good for him. I mean,
we need him kind of genius.
Absolutely. We need him to keep on pumping them out. Poor Chloe, bless her heart. But, they're all beautiful kids and I'm really because Tara and Chloe get along really well and I love Isaiah to death. And our kids are all similar ages, but it's like we keep having them so often we don't have the time to get out because we're still babysitting infants. And by the time the infants get to the point, it's like, hey, we can go out and hang out now. We're back to having another baby.
I got a sign hanging in the wood shop, Billy.
That's done. No more
Don't
babies.
Stay and pray.
No more babies for me. We're done at 3 because I actually enjoy my life. And I'm not saying that a 4th baby would take away from that life. I'm saying my wife would take my life if it happened the 4th time.
But I think that
so it would be a neutral.
Yeah.
Talking about Isaiah,
mathematically speaking,
that would be.
We're talking about Isaiah. We're talking about Matt Rowe. I think that is what defines the region. I think that's what defines Appalachia. There's definitely that spirit more alive and well in the Appalachia region than any. I ain't saying, every other region, I mean, there's obviously good people. But the Appalachia region definitely has
an overarching community.
Yes.
It's got a community already.
And looking out for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, because them hollers, I mean, that's your family, that's your people. I mean, people live up and down the road. They're the ones that are going to be looking out for you when the good times and the bad times come. I mean, you're going to their kids' birthday parties. You're, going up to their wood shop to hang out and have a beer. You're going down to their farm to help them pick up hay. I mean, I swear to it, Callaway is just, we're living the simulation is what we're doing. We're living the simulation. We've all been put here in Callaway just
Operation Big Ear.
I mean, I'm telling you, something is just... Something is just really unique and wild about this place. That's, it's so many great minds have come from here. So many great minds have moved here and found their way here. Simon excluded. He's not here.
He passed his citizenship test. We got to give him credit.
I don't even think I could have passed that thing. So,
yeah, but I mean, like Simon didn't come to Callaway because he was like, oh yeah, I think,
he was meant to be here.
Yeah, he found
the universe. It found him.
I mean.
And we all found each other. It's
like this. No different than the Funny Farm, aerospace engineer, top secret clearance. I mean, how do you find these holes?
Mm-hmm.
They ain't supposed to be here.
Or people like Garland, who's been here his entire life and just as unique character.
Engineer.
Just as a unique character.
Mike Myers.
Yeah.
Writes the service manuals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like
Sterling.
Yeah. Like, it might be in the water, Billy.
Something is, I swear to it. But that doesn't really explain why those super intelligent people make their way here
And,
either.
You know,
It's MI6. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
during the ice storm last week, a friend of ours, her power went out early the first day. We still had power. And I told Tina, I was like, listen, I got to take Kim a generator. House 44 degrees, whatever. She'd help us. We needed help. I go to Boone's Mill, put chainsaws in the back of the truck, load the generator up. Come on, Dennis. So tall, lanky, redneck, hillbilly, white guy, and a little black Jamaican guy. We head to Boone's Mill. We get the generator hooked up and start back up Bethlehem. I mean, we cut our way to Boone's Mill. Trees across the road. Turn around, start back up Boone's Mill. Boom. Those people turn around. We just start laughing. We pull up there, I'm jank chainsaw out. Wow, knock it out. Drive on through, go on up Bethlehem a while. Get on up there. Well, there's more people turning around. There's another tree. We cut it out of the road. Get on up a little ways further. Big fucking tree.
Uh-oh.
And like we're waiting for all these people to turn around, head back down the road. Boom, get up to the tree. I throw the 4-ways on. UPS truck coming the other way. Boom, 4-ways come on. Here comes this dude coming out of the UPS truck with a garbage bag over his head, his 2 arms sticking out, firing up a chainsaw.
Nice.
Nice. Chainsaw.
He wasn't playing.
It was a gas, but it was small, like a little, maybe a football or whatever. And I mean, it was a huge, huge pine tree.
He was going to try it.
Well, he started cutting limbs, and I looked, and I reached in the bed of the truck, pull out like a 440 steel. It's got a 30-inch bar on it. Walk up there. He looked at me. He started grinning. He was like, "You cut the big, I'll cut the small." He starts cutting limbs, and by that, I mean, there's people coming up behind us, and people coming up and walking up from this way. We're cutting the tree out of the road. Cindy Custer. Next thing, I mean, there's women, there's men, there's kids. A couple boys showed up with like flat shovels from somewhere, and they're shoveling shit off the road. And I'm still struggling with the ribs. Well, we done cut a bunch of it, but it was like at one point, and it was hanging. It was a sheriff had showed up at some point in the middle of this, and
did he have a saw too?
No, and I thought, man, damn, the UPS dude had a saw. The sheriff didn't. But I was like, man, y'all gonna have a long night. He was like, dude, it's done been a long night and a long day. I'm trying to get home.
He wasn't playing.
And in the middle of Bethlehem, and the only cut to get to Callaway from anywhere. Pretty much. I mean, you got damn Jamaican dude out there dragging brush. The sheriff was a black guy. Cindy Custer, women, kids. I mean, it was like 15 people out there jerking brush out of the road, and we got sawed up, but it was way off of a bank. I was like, cops like, man, that's good enough. I've done called VDOT. They'll come down with a loader, and I was like, dude, so I gonna come down here and just scalp a vehicle coming up through here because I mean it was a huge tree, and the dude from the UPS truck looked at me. He's like, "Can I use that saw?" He said, "I've cut a few trees." I was like, "Dude, I can't. I mean, I couldn't climb up a bank. I tried, but I was hurting bad enough." I was like, "Yeah, hand him the saw." He clambered up that bank. Oh, it was beautiful. Plunge, cut that damn log right off the butt.
Nice.
Nicked the bottom, hit the trigger on the top. Boom, dropped that thing over the bank, and the cop was like,
He's done that before.
a time.
Yeah, he just like standing there grinning. He come back down. I was like, I can see that ain't the first tree you cut. And he's like, hell no, man. UPS truck on down the road. He goes. We're all trying to the next tree.
I don't think it can be. I mean, said enough. I mean, what an endorsement for UPS right there when your UPS driver has a chainsaw to be able to cut through to make sure your packages are getting delivered.
It made my fucking year. I ain't even gonna lie, Billy. I'm sorry.
And he wanted that
truck
big
with that
saw.
Garbage bag over his head.
He rolled out of a UPS Grand truck.
yanking on the string as he come off the steps. I was like, hey, that man, either he's got a hot date tonight or he just ready to be out of here.
And that's probably the biggest one he could have on his truck, so he wanted yours.
I might get him in trouble. They might be lining him up.
We don't know his name.
Chainsaw going to Bethlehem.
Or they could be looking to sponsor the Appalachian podcast. Just saying.
For a
But
dime a day.
I don't think I hadn't
Dime a
considered sending this clip to UPS and being like, that right there is an endorsement from all get out.
I don't give a damn. You roll out of a damn FedEx UPS, but it was. You roll out of that bitch with a chainsaw. I'm like,
roll out of what with a chainsaw?
A UPS truck.
There we go.
I'm like I was like, No.
Really?
Now, it's going to take you a long damn time on this tree with that thing. But, I mean, he was hot to trot. I mean, he was scooting it.
He was.
I mean, he
wanted
was
to be-
hammering some limbs.
He was
He
determined.
wanted the bigger saw. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, it sounded
ultimately,
like
he
a little
wanted the
mini
bigger
bike.
saw.
Yang, yang, yang. And I, with that fork. But, I mean, literally cut our way all the way back up here.
That's
Hey,
what the
you-
community does as well. Like if you're relying on somebody, if you're relying on government to come help you out when things like this
Don't
happen,
do
it.
it's not going to happen.
Don't do
things
it.
like this, especially in rural areas in the Appalachian Mountains, when these ice storms tear down trees, it's local citizens going through there and doing it. They're not expecting anything. They're not wanting anything. They just want their community to be able to travel safely to get to where they need to go. They do it out of the kindness of their hearts. They're not lazy. They're not selfish. Like you said, women, children, men, black, white. It doesn't matter. Everybody and their cousins out there chipping in. And that, that's why you don't need a FEMA. Like if you want to have federal money set aside to come back in and people say and want to apply and say, hey, I did this, give me some money, or you need money for these supplies or something, that can be better worked out locally than it can by having some, a federal government middleman who really doesn't know the terrain, who doesn't know the area, doesn't know how to get up these roads. It's just a ridiculous premise. It's just something that exists to be able to say you created jobs and you can funnel and launder money. And thank goodness, Western North Carolina, at least now, FEMA recently just fired 200 people, which is a big thing, completely dismantle that as far as I'm concerned. But now we're seeing catastrophic flooding, like we were talking about Matthew Rife and down in Richlands and all these places.
There's got to be a better way than that.
Well, I think he solved it right there. You just have a fund instead of FEMA that people can draw against after an emergency.
And I think, yes, down to the local level.
Right.
Where, the
Yep, wouldn't be hard.
the fire chief and vice chief, or hey, this farmer showed up with his manure tanker after something like that. This farmer, and I will guarantee you,
Put your shit in. Off
I
you
will
go.
guarantee you, them boys. Hey man, we know you showed up. How long did y'all work? Them boys, I'll give me a couple $100. Where if under the regulation guidelines, that same bill would go from $600, cover my fuel, $600, might get a new tire out of it.
10 grand.
Somebody generous. Yeah. Oh, easy.
Yeah.
Or by what I'm seeing now,
We're talking
200 grand.
Sorry, 10 million. Because they throw several zeros on there.
Yeah. And it's got to be a better way, but how do you keep the fraud out of it?
Mm-hmm. Keep it as local as you can, I think.
Keeping it
that's
local.
the
'Cause
only-
local,
That's right.
you have to have integrity to operate.
Locally. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because you get run out of
You're-
Dodge if you ain't.
Well, you'll end up behind a barn.
Well,
getting
we're
a good
talking about
beating.
Hurley and Buchanan County down there, and they got hit awful hard. Grundy, like we said, Grundy 25 years ago moved the entire town up the hill because they got flooded so much.
Yeah.
I mean, at the
Army
end of the
Corps
day,
did.
at the end of the day, you got to be realistic about it. I mean, especially in that part of Virginia and West Virginia up there where it's hitting Eastern Kentucky, there ain't many valleys opening up. And what does open it up is only a few football fields wide maximum. So when it rains, it's coming down that mountain, and there's almost always a water source in the middle of those little valleys as well. So flooding is something that happens quite often, but this is a more devastating one. I mean, the ground's been saturated for so long that everything's just given way. I mean, a massive boulder. I'm talking one probably twice as size as your house, Simon, like collapsed in Kentucky and just crashed right on top of a road. Places have been washed away, businesses and stuff like that.
Bring on the dynamites, what I say.
But really, I mean, we've only
Yeah.
we've only lived in these valleys for the last 150 years, 200 years max. I'm saying, obviously Native Americans, but they were probably way smarter than us, and they just kind of went up the hill a little bit.
So nomads, essentially. Anyway, they carry,
But we have pushed our way up into these hollows and valleys, places we probably shouldn't be.
We've created the
And
problem.
we have created the problem. So, as human beings with a God-given brain to allow us to think, hopefully, you got to understand, hey, the only reason these hollows and valleys exist is with coal mines. And now, I'm not leaving my house. I'm not leaving my family's house. My generation after generations owned it. But you also got to say, no, with that comes a risk. And I don't know, no different in California. We know wildfires before we were ever, in them canyons.
The Santa Ana winds existed way before Santa Ana.
Are we smart enough to say, hey, you know what? There's no coal mine. If there, or do we want to spend millions and millions to lift up an entire town for it to get washed out 20 years later? Or, hey, y'all all own this property. You can either, it's up to y'all to know the risk, or, I don't know. We've come to a point where
the insurance companies will determine that, and they will drive people out from rebuilding. And that is going to happen. I mean, don't think that it's not.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of should, in my opinion. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't mean that, but I mean it.
If you're sitting there real willing to do the risk, look, still at the end of the day, those are their people's homes. And if they want to live there and they want to stay living there, I support it. And in situations like this, we still got to band together and say, look, we do need people there. We need people in these areas. We need people in these hollers, for a multitude of different reasons. We need people there for the coal mining, because that's still a thing in a lot of these areas, especially early. We need people there and there for outposts and stuff. I mean, you want people populated in areas. That way, if the shit does hit the fan, you have people connected and chained up. If you start eliminating those hollers up in there, you're going to have a long distance in between smaller towns, over the mountains from other towns. But if you have people up in them hollers, I mean, word travels fast. For strategic purposes, for the betterment and survival of Appalachians, you need people in these areas. So yeah, I mean, you're going to get flooded, but we're smart. We can get in there and we can clean this stuff up.
Yeah, but are we, Billy?
No, we're not.
And my counter to that argument is, we are still building and populating one of the biggest cultural cities in the US below sea level.
Yeah.
And that's New Orleans.
Yeah.
So
after it flooded once,
where is the sense in that? So
you got to just decide if the juice is worth a squeeze.
But is that every taxpayer's?
That's not.
Should we pay for the juice and the squeeze?
No, it shouldn't be. We should keep our money, and we should decide to say, hey, those are our Appalachian brothers and sisters. Let's all pull our money together. And
that's not how that works.
Because we're not getting taxed into the ground.
That's not how that works. That's how actuaries, right? Sorry to use a big word. This is how actuaries determine risk. This is how insurance companies evolve into the mega industry that they are. They calculate risk. Now, what insurance companies shouldn't be allowed to do is, having perceived an actuarial risk, they shouldn't then be allowed to go, oops, we got it wrong this year. Now we're going to penalize all the premium holders and jack their premiums up because of a bad claims experience. Actuaries calculate risk, and there is a profit-loss relationship to that. And for them to do that knee-jerk, which is what's going to happen with AEP now.
Oh,
let me tell you.
Appalachian Power, not AEP.
Appalachian Power. Sorry, I stand corrected, and rightly so.
It's a subsidiary, but
absolutely, I've got to get it right.
Big
so
difference.
Appalachian Power will probably have some form of fee that will cover the costs that should have been calculated by an actuary, which is what they do, and it extends risk and cost over a length of time. But what they're doing is double dipping. And when you double dip, now you're going back and going, this doesn't...
Appalachian.
The way that they've paid the premiums...
What's that?
And then had an adverse event...
Long been on.
That's not how that works. You cannot then go in and say, by the way, we need to put in a subsidiary here for the next 2 years, and we're going to jack your rates up by X.
Oh, fuck.
The actuary should have calculated that risk.
How bad was your bill?
Everybody's bill.
My bill is sick. I'm very frugal when it comes to power.
So are we.
Mine is less than $200 a month.
So was ours until $500 the last time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
From 189 to 500.
Yeah.
Most people I know, it's over 500.
And we didn't have power for a week over the first storm.
Well, and this is where we're going to get into And man, I do not want to go
dollar from here to here to here. It's all about the shuffle of the dollar. That's every time
Absolutely.
there's a regulation put in place, a dollar changes hands. Every single time. Every time that somebody has a regulation, you can't do this, or you have to do this, do
money's
this.
changed hands.
There's a dollar change hands.
Several.
I mean, the International Building Code.
Yeah.
The International Building Code. Every single code in that book, every mechanical fastener has to be Simpson or better. And it's up to the contractor to prove the fastener they use is as good,
is equivalent
to
or
Simpson.
better.
Now, how much money does Simpson pay somebody to have the international code wrote where every fastener has to be a Simpson product? Fuck off.
That's the same with shackles offshore. They have to
That's
be
the problem.
US made.
I can't cut you beef. That's a problem. You can't take a dozer on private property in the middle of a fire and not get in trouble. No.
This all sounds exactly like what Doge was created to eliminate. All of these regulations, all these things that create problems for locals and folks like us.
Bureaucracy.
And
Yeah.
the red tape.
Because Elon and Donald are both business people.
Right.
Well, they know how they've been handicapped over the years.
They are business. They see. I've always said you got to run a country as a business.
That's the only way
That
you
is
can
never
run
done.
it. Well,
Why
you've
do you think all these people are so freaking out about Doge
Doge.
looking into stuff? God bless. I mean, look at Ocasio-Cortez can't afford an apartment when she gets elected, but she's worth millions now on $150,000 a year. Problematic. I didn't fail math.
Yeah, we've all got issues with that. But now they're all claiming
Of
that
course
those
they are.
statistics that relate to AOC are actually inaccurate. Now, they were, just for shits and giggles, she came into Congress 2019 and her net worth was, for shits and giggles,
She's a waitress.
120,000, 130,000, whatever it may be. It was well under 150 grand.
Well, she
her
said
net
she was
worth.
sleeping on her couch in her office because she couldn't afford an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came out, and I don't know the source of this, which is where it becomes problematic, is that recent wealth and net worth was declared in 23-24 as something like 26-27 million. Now, if someone's going to make that outlandish statement, number one, you're going to get liable and all sorts of lawsuits against
Well,
them
not really.
for making these false claims that have been alleged. But the kickback now is she's denying all of that and that those numbers are completely false and bear no relationship to her genuine net worth. So there's been, I don't know where you can find the real facts.
Is she going to show her tax returns now?
Well,
Are we going to move to her?
She has to as a congresswoman.
Right.
She has to. So there has to be some legitimacy to someone saying or claiming that she has a net worth of $27 million in 2024
On a $150,000 salary.
on a $150,000 salary over 4 or 5 years
With
from
DC expenses.
with DC expenses.
He doesn't have a second job.
Having come into it with a net worth declared of conservatively $150,000. So we all know that this can't happen. But for someone to then swing round and say, we're now disputing the $26 or $27 million claim, I don't know how you can disclaim that with the data that is available. So someone's
Well, you
telling
can't
a waffle.
disclaim that to the people that Musk has working at Doge.
Well, we'll see
Because
where
they're our
goes.
friend from North Carolina.
This is I'm intrigued as to where
You
this
can't
will go.
hide nothing from them boys.
No, you can't, and that's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
But and now, how is it that the searches on and they are tracked on Google, whichever search engine you use?
Well, Google's good enough to hide most of them from everybody.
Well, the search engines are now looking at a massive spike in interest in how you bleach bit your hard drives from the DC area.
And criminal defense attorneys.
Have you seen the influx of houses for sale?
Very
In Northern
interesting.
Virginia?
Very interesting. And that correlates with exactly that statement. You know, why are they looking to clean all of their hard drives or to basically get the fucking out of Dodge?
Well, we know.
But,
I mean, if you look at what they uncovered with USAID, which is just almost unfathomable to me.
it should be.
So
Yeah.
you think about like some of them numbers. I don't know. Let's say just say 20 million or whatever to Saudi Arabia for studies on transgenderness. Now we all clearly know that ain't even a thing over there.
But you're going to get your
If
head
you even
chopped off
think
for
about
that.
it, you're done. You're pushing up daisies. So did a politician in a Saudi Arabia get that? Or did politicians here get all of that money swung around to them?
Money laundering. Oh,
Or
sorry,
did
money laundering.
third-party companies that they're related to
Money
somehow
laundering.
get
That
the
they
money.
own, maybe?
Right, or get contracts with the government
mean-
through that money.
How many umbrella
And then kick
companies
it
did
back.
the Bidens have? Oh, sorry, did I say that?
I
out
mean,
loud?
every single congressman and senator owns a farm. They have
Smart people own farms.
what
Don't leave me hanging.
for a reason.
Right off.
Well, for a lot of different reasons.
Why should we be giving the biggest? Oh, I mean, how dare?
Why should we
how
buy everything
dare
at
they?
retail and have to sell everything at wholesale?
How dare they spend that money in that fashion to start with?
Oh, it's just it's mind-boggling.
How dare they tax us in that manner to start with?
But you know what? All of what I see since this election, I mean, this has just been a fun ride. I mean, I don't.
Is that on
This
shit?
This is just no matter what you think, what you believe, who you vote for, what your dude. It's every. I mean,
They have effectively shifted the way we look at and what we expect from government now. With Doge, when they're now putting out things every day constantly of waste that they're finding and making it transparent in ways that we have never seen
big
before.
waste.
And so now we have a new baseline for what we can expect from government.
We don't yet.
Oh, no, but we have got a taste of this, and I don't think we're ever going back.
So
You can't.
we
Exactly.
The genie's out
How
the bottle.
could you not?
The
How could-
genie's
Oh,
out the
it's out.
bottle.
How can you go back?
Yeah, you
we
can't
all
put it
think
back in.
about
Right.
what we have to pay in taxes,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the
And-
revolution's coming on that
and we
shit.
all also, you know, I got an aunt that's 74 years old that gets a Social Security check for something like $300 a month.
How can you do that at 150 years old? I just want to project.
19, how many million people?
Oh, they have. If you're talking about what I think you're talking about, Social Security, they found somebody on the roll that goes back to like pre-revolutionary period.
Just like, for fuck's sake,
Yeah.
I want to have a conversation with that dude.
Yeah.
Because, you know, history's valuable.
Think of, I mean,
Are you fucking
I mean,
kidding me?
he could have been a British loyalist and a patriot
He-
all in the
no.
same time in his life. You know, he could have just
He
like
could-
you.
He could
He
have
could've
been
went-
double dipping.
Yes.
but I don't think any of us should be surprised.
No, of course.
And
course
and
not.
what Rand Paul
Oh, here it comes.
Doge to go into Fort Knox. Dude, I honestly God think the building's empty.
I don't.
I think we blew it all. They blew it all.
I don't.
I do. I
Well,
believe we got jack shit.
It'll be interesting to see if
Might be
I
a
don't.
bucket that says shit here under the steps or
I
something.
mean, let's just talk. I mean, just. All right, folks, that is the end of our first part. Kind of didn't anticipate the show going as long as it did, but kind of works out. So we're going to split our 200th spectacular special into 2 shows, which is good for a couple of reasons. Gives us a little bit of breathing time to get everything set up with the cameras and make sure those first couple of shows with the new setup are dynamite. So that for one reason, and 2, gives us a little bit more time to breathe with everything going on here at the house with kids and doctors and wildfires and floods and everything that's going on there. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. If you want to subscribe or support us, please go to patreon.com/getontap for just a dime a day minimum. Become a subscriber. These video shows are coming in here soon. We're going to start inviting people up to hang out with some of these really cool guests we got coming. You can also go to X as well and subscribe for only $3 a month, so we appreciate you. You can also just one-time donate at Venmo or Cash App at Get On Tap. So we appreciate everybody that does support us. Big shout out to Spike Cohen and the guys at You Are the Power. Make sure you're giving them a follow and checking them out and all the good things they're doing, sniffing out corruption in small towns, many of those small towns, Appalachian. So appreciate him. You also make sure you're checking out Rife Technology. Matthew Rife, been a big friend of the show, Appalachian-based entrepreneur, and his technology works. You can ask Simon. We've talked about it many times on this show. It helped him personally. So thank you to him and to Spike for being big supporters in this show, and Chip and Simon and Amos and everybody along the lines that has helped out. Big, huge thanks to my wife and all of the wives of the show and in-laws, everybody that chips in to make sure the show can go on. And for all you out there that have helped us and supported us, we sincerely appreciate it. So stick around. If you want to listen to the second part of this show right away, please go to patreon.com/getontap. It'll be uploaded there. And otherwise, we'll catch you here in a few weeks. Thank you.
Was born in the dead heat of the summer, raised on a mountainside by a deadhead father and mother. A little hippie and a little southern, just what I needed so bad, but never saw it coming. She liked to get high, a little sweet, a little shy, like a muscadine wine. She liked to get high. Barely 18, both brave and innocent. Grenadine campfire song stained on her lips. She took me for a ride one summer. She said I'd never forget. She blew my mind about 3 or 4 times. I ain't never been the same since. She liked to get high, a little sweet, a little shy. Patchouli scene, a woman breaks in a gypsy scene, a stiff drain in a pinch hit, a memory Lord I haven't seen. She liked to get high, sweet, a little shy, like a muscadine wine. She liked to get high.